Do you need to do brass prep, chamfer, deburr, maybe clean inside your necks, clean out your primer pockets, and want an easy way to do it? The Brass Boss might be right for you. Let's take a look at it. You voted for it. I got it. Here it is, the Brass Boss. Now, over on YouTube on Patreon, I had a RCBS coupon from the Rock Chuck Olympics that I needed to redeem. This was one of the 3 items that was most highly voted for in terms of you wanted to see me get one, use it, and tell you what I thought about it. So here it is. It is a brass prep station. It has 6 different stations on it. It comes with a variety of tools. I'll kind of go through what it has. First off, I should say that it does have a pretty wide arrangement of power cords. So for different countries and so forth, it has everything you need. It also comes with, but I'm not opening it, is a little bit of like a silica for putting on your brush in order to clean that up and get your kind of a lube basically on the inside of your necks for seating bullets. It sits right here in the cup like that, so it makes it nice. You're not going to dump it over or spill it. But for the sake of the video, I'm not gonna use it. But let's go over what it's got here. So it has stations 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So 1 is sort of your 12 o'clock position here. 1 and 4 are a 550 RPM station. These other 4 are a 350 RPM. And that's because some tools and some operations typically fare better at higher or lower RPMs. Now, your chamfer and deburr are typically recommended at the higher 550 RPMs, whereas primer pocket uniformer, maybe your brush, the pocket cleaner, things like that, if you have a flash hole uniformer that you want to thread in, things like that, typically do better at a slightly slower RPM. The other thing that I should mention, this comes with standard steel cutting tools. If you were to get any kind of carbide, the rule of thumb is typically the tool steel kind of tools here are going to be a faster operation. Your carbide is typically going to want to operate and do better at lower RPMs or speeds. There's also a dial on the back here that lets you pretty much pick the speed that you are looking for. And it does come with everything you see. So you've got the chamfer, deburr, you've got a large and small pocket uniformer, you've got a large and small pocket cleaner, 4 different nylon brushes, and then you have these military crimp cleaners or removers, as it were, for large and small pockets as well. So it comes with a nice assortment of tools. Again, anything that's got basically the same thread as your cleaning rods, it's going to fit in here. Can't remember offhand, I think it's 5/30 seconds or something like that. Anyway, how does it work? Well, you're going to turn it on, obviously. You're going to decide which stations you want to do. And some people will put them in an order so they can work their way around, as it were. Brass prep is not always the funnest thing to do for people. This definitely helps keep it all in one place. It does have 4 adjustable feet on the bottom that can be unscrewed a little bit to help level it out. I happen to have it all screwed in all the way, and it's nice and level on my bench here. They are not a soft rubber, they are a hard rubber, but they do seem to really hold it in place. It obviously can be pushed around, but under pressure, it's not gonna move, like while you're operating the unit here. And so let me grab some brass. And I'm going to go ahead and show you in operation. Now, I tend to run any of my prep stations, and I've owned a few of them over the years, but I do tend to run them on the slower side whenever possible. I just find that the tools tend to work a little better, and I do find that I tend to make less mistakes in terms of buggering up the brass. So let me show you what I mean by that, both positive and negative. So this is about where I would run it. You can see it goes all the way up to there, but it's probably right around half or just a hair under. So something like a primer pocket uniformer, you have to be really careful, because if you are not square coming down onto this unit, then you could potentially elongate the primer pocket. You could bugger it up pretty bad, make it where it just wouldn't work real well or hold in a primer. And that's where having a slightly smaller or slightly slower operation here is going to make it easier to get in and out without any kind of kinks. If I have it faster, you can see it just lends itself. In fact, I can already tell, it's hard to see on camera here, but you can already see that it buggered up the outside a little bit. And if I wasn't careful, like that one just grabbed while I was trying to put it on, it got even worse on the mouth of it. So it's real easy to chew it up if you're not being careful. Same thing goes for your chamfer and your deburr. Again, I kind of like it right in sort of this range here. You can, you know, easily put it on and give it a very nice chamfer and deburr. One of the ways I like to test if it's doing a good job is I take another piece of brass and I just push along the neck and see if I can feel any kind of ridge on the end there. If I were to leave it on longer, you can hear the motor is holding up real well, and I'm putting a ton of force down. Hopefully you'll be able to see that on camera there, but it's making a heck of a bevel. And even at these lower speeds, the motor's still moving under me. In fact, the brass is heating up pretty good. And again, you can see it's just kind of ridiculous that, you know, nobody would ever do this, but you can see that it held up real well. Same thing with the outside. I mean, nobody wants to hear that. And obviously you can see it's real pretty, but not real functional there. But it holds up to the pressures real nicely. You've also got your primer pocket cleaner, so that once you've uniformed it, because typically you're going to uniform them one time, on the subsequent cleanings or times that you need to clean, you would simply come in and that's going to get any of the gunk out of the primer pocket. The brush here is going to be simply getting it in the necks, letting it get in there, clean it out. And that's just going to help. Again, if you put a little lube on it, great. If you don't, it still provides some uniformity in terms of getting carbon and cleaner and stuff out of there. Overall, I found the unit does exactly what it promises. You know, I'm not going to say no more, no less, but I mean, it's a 6-station brass prep station. So if you need to have some different speeds and stuff, I think this is great. Not all brass prep stations are going to have several different RPM motors on them. Some it's going to be the same speed on all of them. You know, I've had some of those in the past, and it is nice when you have something that you need just a slightly faster RPM while having a slower RPM on a different one. The reason being is that you are going to typically work your way around. So, you know, I might start here with a chamfer, and then I would come over here and I would clean or uniform my pockets depending on what I was doing. And then I would come over here and I would deburr, and then I would clean out the pocket or the neck, and then I would be done. So I'd be working in some sort of an order. You can certainly move them around to your taste or to whatever you need. It's a pretty good recessed receptacle area for all the brass shavings. You can see just from our little doings here, there's a bit of brass that's already accumulated. It's easy to dump off and clean, so it's not getting all over the bench. You know, you're always going to have a little bit, especially if you're going heavy on the chamfer and deburr, there's always going to be a little bit that makes its way out, but I'd say this caught at least 99% of what was coming off of it. Other than that, you know, if I really wanted to abuse it, which, you know, you never practically would, but, you know, if I really wanted to lay in, I mean, that motor's still turning but underneath me. You know, it's definitely cutting way more than I would want to under normal circumstances. And the harder I push, the more I'm actually cutting the sides of the pocket because my hand is shaking just a little bit. We already did this one, but I mean, I can't stop that motor. And what I will say is I have had other units from other manufacturers that are brass prep stations that I've been able to stop the motor. I actually had one where under pressure, I was able to crack the gears, which was not a great experience. So this one here, it is their top of the line. It is definitely meant for longevity and for taking some abuse. A little bit of note here in terms of the fact that these are all geared together. So if I turn this by hand, you can see all the stations are going to be turning. So what happens is there's no positive stop to unscrew. So if I wanted to unscrew this right now, it's really tough. Now I can kind of hold on to another station and try to give it a go, and I just popped it free. But what you can notice is that on this station number 4, it is actually elevated, and I'll unscrew this so hopefully my other camera will better show it off. But you can see right here, it is elevated a little bit, and the reason is you can take a little box wrench or an adjustable wrench like this, and it is flat-sided, so that if you need to, you can really hold on it and crank down your tools or remove your tools as needed. If for some reason station number 4 is the one that's really cranked down, I have found that holding station 1 helps, but I did have one situation where I had done a bunch of testing on this earlier, and I had really laid into the brass, and as a result, it had really anchored this thing in, and I just took a little box wrench, went right underneath, cranked it off, and I was good to go. So other than that, I can't really say there's any issues. It is vented very nicely on the sides so that you're not going to get any kind of overheating or anything on the motor unit. And aside from that, that's pretty much it. It's a brass prep station. It allows you to do brass prep. And if you're in the market for one, I have to say this one exceeded my expectations compared to other units in the relative same price range that I've had before. And if this was something I was looking to use, I definitely wouldn't hesitate to pick the Brass Boss. So there you go. I appreciate everybody who voted for it on Patreon and on YouTube. I think it was definitely something that was worth taking a look at. And for those that don't know, because I haven't really talked about this, I'm actually going to be randomly giving this to one of my Patreon viewers. This was not something I talked about ahead of time, but I will be randomly picking one of my Patreon viewers who left a suggestion in the comments. It's just my way of giving back to people who are actively engaged in the channel. And if you haven't been to my Patreon, head over. Things like this do happen, so this will be headed to somebody's house in the very near future. Anyway, appreciate everybody watching as always. You guys are awesome. I hope all is well, and we will talk soon.